Yes, indeed. This is audio number 1 on this 7th of April 2021. And it's nice to be doing the first audio on my Philips device here. I managed to take everything else off from March and I've uploaded it. And so besides this first audio, I've just got 3 more audios on the Lenny device. And that's it. And it feels good to be up to date. I'm just walking by the old house because it's 5 o'clock and I'm not going to the Connemara. I'm doing just I'm walking around the block, so to speak. What I wanted to talk about or meditate on is this notion of the way I continue to analyze things all the time. The example I was saying to myself just before I started recording here was listening back to some audio from last year. There's lots of audio of me talking about Transport Fever 2 or Anno maybe, and it is just me kind of giving some words and to kind of basic useless ideas about these games, or going over in detail what I did. And it may serve a purpose for the individual in that they use, people use the phrase, well, it's good, a good walk helps clear your mind, and there may be some indirect psychological benefit to talking like that, but I also know that listening back to it, it is painfully boring. And I often think it's such a kind of useless activity. Now sometimes when I'm talking, like the other day, it's on the Lenny, I haven't uploaded it yet, and I got into talking about just different things, spiritual things, about Jungian things, the psyche. And that felt like a much more beneficial talk. And it also had the benefit of lifting my humour. We're in the YouTube age now where a lot of people, thousands and thousands, are making a living by analysing just about everything you could imagine. So Techmoan and the One-Bit Guy, they can take an old cassette player from 1985 and they can talk about it for an hour. They can analyse it, People can analyse a chess game, or they can analyse a Sims game, they can analyse a movie. It's very much in the culture, and I think that's why, although I was always somebody that tended to reminisce about things and tended to talk in detail about yesterday and the evening, but I would think perhaps it's never been as much as lately because of it's become a habit. And anyway, I thought, wouldn't it be interesting, or maybe a nice skill to try and learn, if I could walk and not do that. And I thought maybe, even if it meant in order to stay in the present, perhaps it would mean listening to a radio or some music, because at least that way you're distracted by something and your mind is can't say for sure you could listen to music and still be in the past, but there's more sense you're in the present. And stop the kind of needless verbalization to things. Like I said, maybe of use to me in some unconscious way. Perhaps it is all, I'm pretty sure this is the case, it's all beneficial. But it's also interesting to think, well, if you weren't reminiscing about last night and about playing chess or about cryptocurrency, let's say at the moment, what else could you turn your mind to? Is there any way to be more future looking? Any way you could discuss formulating a plan? Is there any way of discussing? I can't really formulate plans, just thinking about that. It just brings to mind a certain sense of stress. Actually, just that thought, because the future, I'd really prefer to be one day at a time. So let's say in the one day at a time spirit, I try and focus the dialogue on my own psychic state and on finding ways to improve myself. You know, I guess even that could end up in lots of analysis of something from the past. Maybe it's impossible for someone like me to not drift into that sense, that habit. Yes, anyway. I'm just turning around the block here. I'm going back into the estate. And then I'm going to go back down the road to home. Maybe bring Tuco for a walk this evening. Is there any news today? This is what I kind of like listening to. And when I listen back to these, what was the story on this day? Well, on the news, it's all talk about, will the vaccine program speed up? In Ireland, the teachers are thinking of going on strike because they were promised the vaccine, and now they've been told they have to wait in line, and it's going to be totally on an age basis. Flo went to the vet with Tuco today to have his own vaccine against some dangerous mosquitoes. I had some excitement this morning listening to a stream by these two young guys because the crypto market seemed to be crashing. It went down, a lot of things dropped 15%, and they were waiting to see, was this the big one? Turned out it wasn't. Things are going back up again now. In the meantime, me and Flo are still trying to get money into Binance. It's proved extremely difficult to transfer money from a French bank account to one of these sites. We've been having trouble since we started in November. But at the moment, as things stand, we've got 29,000 invested. And when I did the count yesterday, with everything quite high in the crypto world, we had earned around 61,000. So we've actually we had over 100% profit. It's amazing, really. Making money like Flo says and not doing anything. It's a beautiful, quiet evening. Rita's pups are growing. They're really nice, actually. I could see myself getting very attached to. I was playing with one little pup today. You can understand how you get, if we had a bigger place. And if I wasn't worried about traveling in the future. Perhaps I wouldn't mind having a nice big German Shepherd, but I just know it's going to be so much trouble. We're in a lockdown for the next month. Here in France, makes no difference to me and Flo. It's felt like we've been in lockdown since November. We stopped all work at the end of February. It's only early April, but it feels like I feel like I haven't worked in about 6 months. Time is bizarre with this whole COVID thing. I have this, it's like a mild idea, and I find it hard to get a grip on it. I guess it's been around a while. It comes from the notion of being able to be somehow objective with yourself. Like I was talking earlier, to have the ability to just kind of shut down your thinking completely at will. To go into some kind of a trance, a relaxation. To have the ability to have the ability to be able to talk about yourself in that wonderful third person, but really to be unaffected by what you're saying about yourself, like you were talking about somebody else, or like you're talking about, I don't know, it's hard to put these things into words. There's a distance. It's like when Bruce Dern kind of said he was very jealous when he didn't get the movie Easy Rider. He said it without any feeling, you know. Buongiorno. He just said it with detachment. I get a hint of that from certain things. It's a wonderful detachment, you know. And it's not very common. It's funny because no matter how you deal out these ideas, there's a certain ego in it anyway. I'm thinking it'd be wonderful if someone asked me a question. Someone said something like, maybe they paid me a compliment, and there's a few people there and are talking about my character or something, and I, without hesitation, go on to point out all my flaws. But without not looking for people to say, oh, you're being too hard on yourself, or not for looking for sympathy, but just to say it in a mechanical kind of like, well, that's my flaws. I know you've all got yours, in a matter of fact way, you know. and to talk openly about fears and sometimes the empty sense of life, whatever, and be very open about it, but not be attached to it, because I'm saying it, but I know in a sense there's some kind of a truth in it that people must, if they have the awareness or they're honest, they'll say, yeah, I'm kind of like that in certain ways as well. But as I was saying a little earlier, there's always a sense of ego attached, because even with this, I'm aware that being open and speaking about yourself in that sense could, in a way, make you an object of attention around that table. Because perhaps some people are going to hear something that's unusual. They don't normally hear people talk like that about themselves, you know. Can't get away from the ego. But maybe I'm misjudging it a little bit. Maybe if you know what it is, and maybe if there's some kind of a natural sense of a rising of the spirit because you're saying all these things and you know you're connecting people. Maybe it is simply that. Maybe it is your spirit kind of being a little bit higher because you're doing something good. You could look at it like that, perhaps. The ego. It's hard for me to get a handle on this type of personality. But it really works. It's when I can see it best when I talk to Flo. If I talk to Flo about something. And the problems in the past is I've always got very personal about things. And I get very annoyed when she says I have to do everything. It's always been, and I don't want her to say that again because it hurts me and this and that and the other. And I get attached to, not attached, I don't want to hear people saying, oh, he doesn't speak the language, why doesn't he? And the criticism. It creates an emotion. It creates an emotion in me, and the emotion in me is one of shame, perhaps. Guilt. And of course it doesn't come out like that, it just comes out straight anger. Straight anger, but that's what it is. But all these things is because I have an emotional attachment to these things. If I could be just much more mechanical. And when I am like that on a few occasions, it's a revelation. When I'm like, well, of course, that's a fact. And I said to Flo, that's a fact, you do have to do things. It's a fact, I can't do this and that and the other. That is the situation. You're definitely not telling lies. You're telling the truth. And I am like that, and it's a problem. I don't speak the language, that's a flaw. But I don't get emotional, I just accept it. Bonjour. It's not a new idea, this, because it's been around for years and years and years. It's something I picked up from Steve McQueen on that Bullet movie like 20 years ago. And I wasn't really able to maybe verbalize what it was that fascinated me so much. And also I've had this conversation before about actors and about movies and about the symbolism of the movie in general. The fact that the actor is reciting a line or he's improvising, and he's not really that person. Is ironically, as an actor, you're trying to get emotionally attached to what you're saying. It's the opposite of what I'm talking about. But again, it's hard to verbalize beyond verbal definition. But it's the way Bullitt was able to just discuss what had to be done in a very economical way. And he didn't get emotional about things. On YouTube these days, everybody gets emotional extremely quickly. They jump. I do all the time. Stephen Molyneux. He just gets the anger levels up, you know. I want to comment. Joe Swinston saying that if she got to power with the Liberal Democrats, she would scrap Brexit without consulting the public. That just got me fuming, you know. I thought, that's the craziest thing I've ever heard. How can a politician going to be elected not understand anything about democracy? It'd be like someone becoming a priest and having no idea about religion. It just seemed mind-blowing. But I got emotional about it. I wanted to, you know, I jumped in there, and even though the keyboard's not working, I had to slam out this comment. I guess there's nothing wrong about venting a little bit, but I think to see yourself as an object, I don't know if take up your cross is a metaphor for taking up your ego, your character, and just kind of having to deal with it, but realizing there is something else. There is a higher power, as we continually say. There is something else there. Let's say an unconscious being that's just far more advanced and is not trapped by the emotional situations. You could ask, of course, you could say then, well, you know, emotions aren't always bad. Looking forward to something and having anticipation, and there's a lot of good emotions, that inspired emotions. But I would say they're in a different class. One shouldn't worry about them. You know, if you're listening to a piece of music and it makes you feel powerful, it's a completely different thing to anything you're doing on YouTube while you're typing out replies or comments. There is, of course, a certain Spock connection to all this. Comes up in all of the Star Trek stuff. You know, Spock would say, your Achilles heel is your emotional attachment. Not emotional attachment, emotions in general. Because these inner forces then take over. And we're not in control anymore, and we're kind of lost in a sea of emotions that have little to do with the article of the moment. I was saying that before, you know, when people get angry and lose their minds in a protest and start banging each other with placards. It's quite possible that the 50-year-old who's getting absolutely incensed with anger, his whole life's anger, all his disappointments, is unconsciously coming through at that moment. The girl that he wanted to marry but didn't, because she got married to a friend of his. This stuff really pissed him off so much back in his 20s. But it's still there somewhere. It comes up. It's part of the angry force, you know. And then the other time he was in a bar or something, and someone said something, and he backed away because he was afraid, and that sticks with him as well. And he thinks, I should have fucking hit that guy. There's all this stuff. And when you lose your emotions to like a simple thing like Trump is a great guy, it makes no sense that you're willing to chop someone into bits in front of you because they don't like Trump. It's a way over the top reaction for a simple political disagreement. So you can see what's clearly happened is that there's some kind of leak there and all the anger is flying around. If the person could disassociate or at least be able to see, well, hang on a minute, I'm here in protests about Trump. This is kind of relative to me about this much. It relates to me in this way. There's a certain chance that things could go wrong if Trump doesn't get back in. But if I'm kind of really, and if the person has got some kind of awareness, some kind of logic, and they're not really sucked up into the fucking stratosphere of conspiracy theories, they can kind of take a step back and go, this really isn't, I shouldn't be getting this annoyed. This situation is not going to affect me that much, really, if I'm logical. And the anger I'm feeling is really powerful. It's got to be coming from some other source that's just, every anger in me has jumped on the bandwagon of anger, and it's all going to start flying around. You see it all the time. It's so clear. YouTube can be a learning device. Some woman goes to buy some dog food and the place is closed, or some woman won't wear a mask and she wants to get a burger and loses her mind because they won't serve her. The reactions are so over the top that you can see it's people losing control of all the stuff inside them. That's why I'd like to detach from these things, to look at it all in a logical way. There's something else that just springs to mind. It's Marcus Aurelius. I should really read some more of that stuff, because in a sense you should have in your mind, what does this mean in the big scheme of things, seriously? How important is this situation really when I've got my health here and everything? Truly. How important is this in the scheme of things? Perhaps in a cosmic way things do matter and everything, but it's also fair to say that, as they say in Casablanca, our troubles don't amount to a hill of beans, really. It's not to take sides with yourself, it's to try and balance the emotions in the good and the bad. There's this thing. I love where someone is interviewing two people, and the two people being interviewed are polar opposites. And it's probably accurate to assume that the person doing the interview, although they can't really take sides, they do now anyway, but you can probably tell that she's probably going to be, or he's going to be on one side. But the brilliance of them is that they don't show that. And so they will ask the person, who may sound like completely crazy, maybe a conspiracy theory, and they'll ask them to explain themselves and what do they think will happen if this happens, and how, without getting emotional, without shouting them down, without being Piers Morgan, but you just let the person try and express themselves. This is something else I've had in my mind for a long time. How interesting it would be to just examine the emotions of someone like that. If you could get them to just focus on their reaction to the topic being discussed, and you could get them to realize, hey, does it not seem over the top, the fact that you're shouting and screaming because the lockdown may continue for an extra month? driving home almost now. This is a short one now. I'm all about constructing a new character. Not a new character, I'm all about developing the character I have. You know, in terms of the electronic metaphors, you could say, kind of upgrading things. And for me, one of the best things to do would be not to take things personally. To try and be, I guess, more courageous. But mainly to try and be distant with myself. As if I'm talking about somebody else, or I'm talking about myself, but I'm actually, my vantage point is way in the future, and I'm talking about past stuff that doesn't have any importance to me anymore. Something like that. Anyway, I should say adios. Yes, 2. Alright. Monday the 14th of April. 14th of April. I've just put the mic in my black jacket breast pocket. I hope that's picking up things. I think I tried that before and it was okay. I'm trying to shelter it from the wind as well. Anyway, this microphone picks up everything. So, Monday, 14 April 2021. I'm walking back from the Connemara, and it must be after 6. And I suppose I should just fill myself in on the story of the day. So I went to the Connemara to do some work on Binance, because over the last few days there's only been one thing really, cryptocurrencies, well maybe 2, and chess. And Flo sent me 1,000 to the Binance account, and so yesterday I was able to set up a limit order for Bitcoin, or was it today, for Bitcoin, and Bitcoin is now at around 59,000. If it drops to 56, I'll buy. And in the Connemara I did the same with the Binance coin, which has been going crazy. It was up over 620, 30 today. It's dropped down below 500 now, 570. And if it drops to 500, then I'll buy that. So that's that. I have to say it feels really cool to be dealing like this with the cryptocurrencies, because although it's great to watch the prices go up and everything, I've now got an added interest in if the prices fall. And I do have the 10,000 from MAF, which it's incredible how long all this stuff takes, really. I think I sent the MAF from MAF to my bank account. It could have been 2 months ago. It's really incredible. And they sent me a check that went in. So now it's in the Credit Agricole, and it's there, but Flo's got to send it 1,000 at a time, because Binance doesn't seem to accept anything more than anyway. What I'd love to do is have all the 10,000 in Binance, and then just be able to set up all these limit orders. Like put one on ADA if it drops to $1. Put some more on Ethereum, Bitcoin, Polkadot, and the Graph, which has been doing well. And then it's just something else to look forward to checking, because I love checking these things. I love getting up in the morning and finding out what's going on in the markets. At the moment it's some kind of a kind of a mini obsession. It may change, who knows, but that and the chess. At the moment, Flo is doing some painting in the house. She's doing some hieroglyphics and painting the little square canvases. She's also doing some molds of a Buddha that she bought in the garage, and she's enjoying the creative burst at the moment, as well as the yoga, which is going fine. Still got students. And I was thinking, the Connemara, the last time we did a proper full day was back in October, and I'm starting to feel very detached, and today I just thought, well, it's actually been nearly 6 months since we did a proper day there, because we finished October, November, December, January, February, March. It's now April. 6 months. It's incredible how much time has passed. So it's kind of normal you'd feel detached from it. And the other thing to say is that although we could go back to do, let's say, a morning or a takeaway in the Connemara, fact of the matter is that we really don't want to. I enjoy my routine getting up at midday. Flo really enjoys the routine of getting up, walking the dog, doing her yoga and doing whatever she wants. We're both happy like that. I'm looking forward to the weather getting a bit hotter, because I really enjoyed sitting out in the garden in the morning, listening to the Claire Byrne show, drinking some tea, and I just like the routine. Like today, I've done this long walk with my laptop in my bag on my back, and you know, I enjoyed the days. Things are good at the moment, which brings to mind, I was thinking about this a few minutes ago. I can hear my phone going off. Let me check. Maybe she wants to bring Tuco for a walk, and she's trying to decide if she should come this way or not. Let's see. Flo, missed call.
Me, I'm going for a walk with the dogs. I wanted to know if you've got the home keys.
I do, yeah. I'm on my way back now.
Okay, so I lock and you can open, yeah?
I can open, yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Where are you going? Just to the usual?
Yeah, the usual. I'll do the return trip with the river, and I'll take Rita as well, huh?
Okay. I'll see you later.
Okay.
Bye. I was thinking maybe I could go with them, you know, if I quicken my step, because she has to go and get Rita and put the thing around Rita's neck, not Rita's mouth. Nah, I think I'm too far away. I've just passed the old house. I'm still a long way away. Yeah, what I was saying is we're in the good spell here, and it's heavy to do with a natural cycle of, you know, spring and everything. And I was thinking, it's so different in the bad spell when things are not going well, both of us. But I was saying to myself, I hope I've made a change in that respect, so that if Flo wants to say that she has to do everything, and that she has to call SFR to sort out the phone and the internet, and she has to call somebody to sort out the Connemara, and she really feels on her own, instead of me feeling really bad about that, which I do. I mean, I feel guilty, but the guilt tends to, somewhere along the way, it gets transformed into anger, and I say to Flo, you know, I know this is it, but it's been like this, and you keep repeating the same thing, and it's like a vicious circle, 10 years, blah, 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 and it used to really torment me, but now the change is that I don't think I'm going to feel like that anymore, and I want Flo to have every opportunity to vent like that. I used to think the reason I wanted to stop Flo doing that was because I didn't want to end up like one of these guys that seems to be beaten down in spirit and soul by their wives over time, but I'm not like that. I don't think that's going to happen to me. And I also think psychologically it's important for Flo to be able to vent that way and say things like that which are true. And she's more matter of fact about it, and she gets over these things quicker than me. So if I can just be like, well, yeah, it is true, and I'm sorry, I wish I could do something different, and then she'd say, well, you can, but you just won't because you're lazy. And at that point, if I don't get angry, if I can just be like, yeah, I am lazy, and then maybe I can say I am going to try and do something, I don't know, without getting really agitated. But it's difficult because I feel myself getting agitated when just this conversation with myself. If Flo were to say, oh, you could do stuff, you just don't want to. That's when we get into, because I'm an introvert, because I find it difficult, and because, you know, blah, blah. If I could somehow just let it go, you know, and not, this is part of the solution, which may seem a bit selfish, but so that I don't end up kicking myself all the time when this comes up. I don't end up feeling terrible and then taking that out on Flo because I'm feeling miserable, and so it kind of transforms into anger. I hope in the future, if this bad mood comes along again, which is inevitable because it always does. We've been together for a long time, and there's never been a spell of a whole year or so where everything is hunky-dory. It's just not the way it is, you know. It's not like that for anybody. And I've got to be prepared for it, and I've got to be able to handle it and let Flo do what she has to do, you know, live as well. And I was thinking, it's funny when I was in that state where it's in March, there's lots of audio tapes to listen to, and you can hear the kind of depth of this depression, which was just, by the way, a month ago, so feels longer, but it was just this time last month. And I was feeling awful, and being with Flo seemed impossible and depressing and going nowhere, and France seemed like it wasn't going to go nowhere to me, and it just terrible negative thinking, and I'm going to end up back in Ireland, and you know. But it really comes with the state of mind, and I think I should learn not to accept, although it's very difficult, but not to accept as truth the external picture, the big picture that you give yourself when you're in that state of mind. Because right now, nothing has changed, but I feel I've got a kind of healthy quantity of hope. And me and Flo are getting along well. And I've got a kind of quiet, confident belief in the future. I'm liking all this stuff with the crypto because I'm hoping it'll lead to maybe something that'll be a way of kind of making a steady income. It would be so great for me to become independent in that way, to make a couple of €1,000 every month Yeah. So, yeah, that's the situation with us in life. The Duke of Edinburgh died. The Queen's husband, 99. It's the end of an epoch. What else? I'm playing chess a lot. Chess.com. I got my ranking up to 1,197, I think, and that's as high as I've ever been. It's a very... It can be tremendously rewarding and tremendously frustrating, chess. I won a game last night and I danced around the room. I was so happy. But then in the same evening you can lose a game and feel just gutted because either the person just took you apart with this queen or queen, or you were playing really well and you made a stupid mistake, or you know. But that's... I'm really passionate about the chess at the moment. It's giving me certainly strong emotional moments. So I'm looking ahead, I can see flow. And the dogs. Should I go with her? It's quite a long way away. If I was to just go home, I'd be pushing the walk. There isn't really any point in shouting at her, she won't hear me. She's halfway down the path. I think I'm gonna go home. Yeah, I think I walked enough. I've also got my laptop on my back. So that's it for now, I guess. That's don't think there's anything else to say. Everything is good at the moment in this middle of April, and we're enjoying our routine, and my couple of obsessions are keeping me occupied, and that's about that.